with the early release of The War Within being now out, we are now in the mood, of course, for some guides, some infographics, some spreadsheets about the early stages of the expansion, the leveling, the exploration, the completion of all of the different quests, etc, etc, the weekly to-do guides on what to do in the first few weeks of the expansion. So that's what we are going to be dishing out for today, some helpful and useful links. Don't forget, of course, that you can still check all of this out on the Discord. You can find the link down below in the description, where you will be able to be met with a list of useful links to whatever you might be interested into, and in particular, of course, a series of guides for the expansion. You will all be able to find them in Discord as well. First of all, we have to start, of course, with the largest one, Amzeus's Guide to the War Within. I believe we are now at the 3rd expansion, where you can find this. You can first begin with a list of the changes happening to the expansion, and then you can start getting into the nitty-gritty, like, for example, the loot distribution, the nice spreadsheet about the loot, the Mythic Plus loot, the raid boss loot, etc, etc. Helpful spreadsheets on what to upgrade and when to upgrade your gear, plus, of course, the upgrade system, the raiding loot divided by armor type, explanations on different zones, plus tips for leveling, X-Packs dungeons, raid loot tables for different stats that you might want to go for, crafted loot, and direct links straight to Wowhead. Of course, you still have the Mythic Plus loot table, same thing, with all your gear available there, Mythic Plus in Season 1, etc, etc. So this is definitely the largest one of the guides, the more comprehensive one of the guides for The War Within. Talking about guides, now we have a more focused one, which is the Larias's Raider's Guide for The War Within. Now, technically, you don't actually have to be a raider to be following this guide. What this is doing is practically trying to give you the best timeline on what to do week by week up until the first 2 to 3 weeks after the release of the Mythic Raid, which will be on the 17th of September. So, you know, if you're worried about things like what am I supposed to be doing with Restored Coffer Key or Sparks of Omen or quests, what is there even to do in the first couple of weeks of the expansion? What about week 3, when Heroic Raid and Mythic 0 opens but not Mythic Plus? Am I supposed to open the vault, to not open the vault, to use my quests and spend them, or just wait and sit on them? That is the plan you can find on Larias's guide as well, which can also come in as useful for players who are more into min-maxing their performance at the very release of the expansion. But if you're not one for big, long guides, having to read a lot, or having to open up some massive spreadsheets, having to scroll through some 20 different tabs and different points of information, and it gives you a headache just having to scroll through all of this, you can go for more simple, more straightforward lists. The infographics, all condensed in a single page. This one is Andrew's Gearing Guide, which is, as mentioned, in a single, more streamlined picture, which will show you what you can do week by week. So you have the early access, which will last 4 days. You have the 2 weeks of the launch without the season open, Season 1 open with normal and heroic raids and Mythic 0, and then the actual full release of the season with Mythic Plus and Mythic raiding. So you get to have roughly an idea of the gear you can acquire, for example. You know, as soon as we get the launch in a few days, you will be able to get heroic dungeons, which means 567 item level loot. That should be roughly your goal in the first couple of weeks of the expansion, and then when Season 1 opens, you have heroic dungeons that go up to 580, and more importantly, Mythic 0 dungeons that go up to 593. So you get an idea again of what's going to be available, and then of course the actual release of the season with Mythic Plus as well as Mythic raiding. We can go for a different type of spreadsheet. This one is the gear acquisition spreadsheet. Again, you have early access, you have the couple of weeks of the launch, Season 1 starting, and Mythic Plus and Mythic raiding opening. This one even fits better in a single page. If you're even more picky in what you want to look at, this one doesn't even require you to scroll around. You have everything fitting in one page, again telling you practically what will be available week by week and its item level. The last of the third-party sites and spreadsheets and links we can go for today is Tactyks Season 1's of Mythic Plus Ability Guide. This is obviously a bit more on the nerdy side. guide, of course, but what this does is gives you the entire collection of abilities for every single dungeon marked with what they do. So we're talking about if it's an ability that requires an interrupt or a stop, if it does party AoE damage, if it needs to be dodged, if it is a dispel, and then the type of dispel, if it's a frontal tank buster, or if it's an important ability in general. Now you might be saying, who cares about this? But it can be useful for some of you who want to tinker with your add-ons. For example, this is what I did with my own cell to edit the targeted abilities aimed at players. This was done listing all of the targeted abilities that will show up in Mythic Plus, for example, and now will also show up in my frames by going through and looking at these lists, because they very handily give you the ID of the spell just by looking at the link. You can easily find the spell ID right over here, so it's quite simple to go and pick up any spell you want added into your game based on its ID. But perhaps talking about dungeons and talking about Mythic Plus, we might be a few weeks early, so it's time to go back a bit to what is supposed to happen now, which is leveling, right? So what we will also be giving out for today is the full list of guides for the RestedXP add-on. We are a charity for today, since these guides are impossibly expected to cost $30 just to have them. Now you get them for free. Very simply, all you need to do is install your RestedXP guides and then extract the folder in the download and simply paste it all in the RestedXP guides add-on folder. That will unlock all of the guides for the War Within, which can give you the option to simply follow the story of the expansion, the story plus the few side quests needed to hit level 80, and then you have even the option to get yourself a route, a guide for all of the side quests in each and every zone, if you want to complete all of them. For example, for the extra renown, the extra rep you can get from all of the side quests. Being a leveling add-on, of course, it gives you features like automatic quest turn-in, automatic quest accept, automatic choosing of flight paths based on where you have to go, automatic NPC targeting and marking for the relevant NPCs you need to go towards. You have the typical quest arrow pointing you in the correct direction, even a bar, even a timer for the quest's RP and telling you how long it's going to take you for you to wait before the NPCs are done talking. This should be a pretty relevant add-on in these first few days of the expansion, where leveling will be the main thing in the expansion. But since we live, of course, in a democracy, I'm going to give you the alternative to RestedXP guides with the custom install of the folder for the War Within routes with Azeroth Pilot Reloaded. This one is, of course, much simpler to install. All you have to do is just click install and you're done. It is in all aspects a slightly simpler kind of add-on, from the way it is being presented to the way the description of the quests and what you have to do for the quests. Most of the commands will be very simply do the quest or complete the quest or turn in the quest, whereas RestedXP can give you more precise orders as well as more precise checkpoints and more precise coordinates towards, for example, heading towards a certain NPC within the area or where the entrance of the cave is, etc, etc. But especially if you are a more old school type of player, you are more used to these type of add-ons, then you also have the option to go for Azeroth Pilot Reloaded if you are into this kind of min-maxing, you know, this kind of being able to skip a whole bunch of things, skip dialogues, auto-accept things, etc, etc. These two are the more popular and the more used kind of add-ons for questing and for leveling. And that's all we have for today with this collection, this bundle of information. Some very long and spread and detailed guides of practically the entire expansion, some more focused guides on what to do in the first few weeks of the expansion, the extra info of being able to know about every single mechanic in the upcoming Mythic Plus season, some shorter, more direct type of guides on what to do in the first few weeks in a more aesthetic way and in a more simple format, and then a help for your leveling in these first few days. So for today, with this out of the way, it is now time to leave each other. As a reminder again, all of these links will be down in the description and also available down over on the Discord. So with this out of the way, thank you guys again for watching, of course, as well as for supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as for subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, I hate it when you wake up early because you have to go to pee and then you cannot fall asleep again, so now you have to run through the day with 3 hours less of sleep.